You're a blessing in this kind of world where there's so many variables that can just make everything we're already feeling so much more intense.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing the inner work to be a little bit more self-aware to see it, then the trail of self-sabotage that
Well,
somebody
it's what
like...
it does to the child. It makes the child its own killer. The child is literally murdering themselves. It's a slow suicide when you don't love them. So they find a way to kill themselves on a daily basis, either by the way that they're thinking, by the food that they're eating, by the substances they're taking, or the partners they're choosing. And that's why we as human beings owe it to children to give them that, just the head start. And I get a lot of hate online, a lot, especially from single mothers and stuff like that, because I talk a lot about the importance of children being loved. And sometimes I can see mothers deprive children of their fathers when they're healthy fathers, not when they're abusive, even when they're healthy, just as a form of punishment. And I get so much backlash and so much hate. But the reason I do that is I've never, ever come across a client that has had two really loving parents and is then engaging in a slow suicide. It doesn't happen. It's only when either one or both have hurt them in ways that they can't even articulate, but their body keeps score of it. So they start becoming masochists, either emotionally or physically. And I always find it comes from family and comes from mum and dad. So that's why I just think, forget the child. Let me teach parents, because then I will have no clients. One day, inshallah, God willing, we'll live in a world where there'll be no clients if we fix parents. But they don't want to have that conversation.
What is something you would say to parents? Obviously, there's so many things that you could say, but if you were to say there's one thing that you really, really can focus on as a parent to try to make your child feel the word you used, full.
Yeah, I would say, you know what it is? The first 3 years is a huge, huge investment for you. If you invest well in them in the first 3 years, I promise you, you don't have to worry about them so much after that. So in those first 3 years, every emotion they experience, validate it. When they cry, you soothe. When they smile, you smile back. When they are angry, you allow them to be angry, but you soothe them and calm them down. You attune yourself to their emotions. Literally, you validate and experience those emotions. You don't punish them for having emotions at such an early age. They're just babies. And then what you'll find is that child starts to trust you. It starts to learn, mum loves me, dad loves me, people are loving. Then what happens is they make good decisions for themselves in the future. They naturally work harder in school. They make good friends. They don't make bad friends because anyone that's mean to them, it's unfamiliar. So they make good choices. And then when it comes to partners, they'll only be with nice partners because anyone who's horrible, it's weird to them. But when we neglect them in the first few years, what happens is they learn to isolate. And they don't trust people and they don't trust the process, then they go from one sabotage after the other, and you'll create a teenager that you can't stand and an adult that you can't trust with their own life. So just invest in the first couple of years.
Wow, that's incredibly enlightening and something that we can definitely make a reel out of.
Inshallah.
So someone else will find you from this. I just can envision.
But you know what the problem is? This is a problem I really find is I talk a lot of calm, emotional stuff and a lot of like controversial relationship stuff. And what goes viral is the nonsense.
Really?
What goes viral is usually the nonsense. If I talk about cheating men and cheating women and like rich men and gold diggers and all this stuff, and that tends to go viral. If I sit there and talk to you about how to nurture and love a baby, because it's
do the inner work.
And do the inner work, it's skip, which I understand. You know, we're living in a world where it's entertainment rather than improvement is what we're focusing on. Micro. So I understand that. But it just makes me sad because then it's like, when you think of Sadia, you'll think of, oh, that girl that always talks about guys cheating or girls cheating. And it's like, actually, no, that's not what I really talk about. And it's not what I care about either. What I care about is why are we selecting partners like that? And why are we using sex as a coping mechanism? Where is the pain?
Right.
Because sex becomes a coping mechanism. Affairs become a coping mechanism. So let's undo it. But obviously social media is sensationalized and they kind of pick on those things.
But it is adaptive, and that's what I believe, because it's the same thing with me. I'm so sick of seeing similar content constantly. But in the end, even though the cheating and the reel that I found you with didn't relate to me, I still knew, you know what the hell you're talking about. And we're here now to make it where we can hopefully get people to listen. Because honestly, I needed this conversation so much, so many times in my life. And that's what I'm hoping. Like, it's kind of in a podcast because people aren't watching, you know, they're going to listen later. I feel like this is such a safe place to be vulnerable with you. So I'm so glad that we're doing this.
And I'm glad we're strangers because I've got no pre-existing idea. I haven't met your baby or anything like that. So it's good for me to kind of go into it with a blank slate. Then I can't say, oh, but she knows my husband. Or it's purely, this is what trauma does to us. And people think they're so unique. They always say to me, oh, she thinks she knows it all. People think like everybody's different. No, we're not. We're really not. Trauma really has really predictable effects on human beings. I can almost tell you some of the behaviors that you might show with your husband. You might do like over checking when he's last online, like when he's last seen, or why hasn't he called me? Some of the verbal kind of abuse sometimes that might come out when you're triggered. It's predictable because trauma is predictable because human beings are designed to be loved. And when we're not loved, we go down a particular path.
I wanted to ask you, so if I was your client and I did tell you like what I've told you so far, I'm so scared for Callie, my daughter, to have any issues in the future because her dad's not around a lot. And I'm very scared to say it around him because he constantly feels so guilty. He absolutely adores her, loves her so much, checks on her. He does all the due diligence and more. But the nature of his job is sometimes he's gone for a month now. She hasn't seen him in a month.
Yeah, a long time.
It's a long time. I mean, she's even a different baby since the last time he was here. So I worry about her.
Him coming home once a month, he'll still love her more than any other man on the planet. Impossible to tell me otherwise. Yeah, this is the most a human being can love somebody, is a healthy father. So here's what really happens with children. As much as they are, vulnerable, they're also very resilient. And what happens is they learn the mum's energy as well. So what happens if dad is going away and coming back, dad is going away and coming back, but mum is consistent and mum is reminding them that dad loves them.
Yeah.
They form, even if I just say to you now, could you imagine ketchup on ice cream? Your brain will start to experience what ketchup on ice cream would taste like because when we're told something, our brain actually starts to experience it.
Right.
So when you tell Callie, dad loves you so much, he's gone to work because he wants to give you a good life. You know that holiday? Dad's just going to do a few things to make sure we can go on it. Yeah. Or dad has done that. When I go shopping with dad's car, dad bought you this. You keep him alive. So what happens is she glorifies him in his absence and he soothes her when he's in his presence.
Wow. Okay.
And that's how you keep the connection. But taking the child away, unfortunately, the bond between a child and a loving parent can never be replaced. It can never be replaced. So by removing that completely, you traumatize them way worse.
Yeah.
Whereas when you teach them patience and reassurance, dad is coming home, dad loves you, dad is going to be there, don't worry about it. That child feels even more important because she learns trust. She learns that separation is not neglect.
Right.
Whereas if you then took her away, she would learn that separation is abandonment. But if you remind her dad's coming back, he's coming back, and he consistently comes back. It's a bit like when you drop them to play school. The first day, they'll be crying their eyes out. Second day, they're like, bye, bitch, and they go straight in. They could care less because they trust you. You're going to come back. That's what you do with father figures.
Wow, incredible. I'm gonna listen to this episode more than anyone else. I'm gonna repeat it.
No, inshallah. That's how it works.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.